So, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Integrity Systems Company State and Territory webinar series. My name is Xander Bennett, and I work in the communications team here at Integrity Systems Company. Before we kick things off, I'll just run through a few housekeeping rules for the webinar. Just so you're aware, today's webinar is recorded. And we'll be sending out a recording of the webinar and the slides and some more information within the week. Today is a really good opportunity to ask lots of questions from us at ISC and from Northern Territory Department of Ag. So you'll find a Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. So if you do have any questions more broadly or about today's content in the webinar, please feel free to drop some questions down there in the chat box. And we've got a few representatives from ISC and from the department who can respond to those. And that's about it. I'll move on to the agenda first and foremost. So for today's webinar, I'll be giving you guys a bit of an introduction into Integrity Systems Company, who we are and what we do. And then we'll be hearing from Elizabeth Bradley, who is the Manager of Quality, Policy and Compliance here at ISC, who will be giving us a bit of an update on the LPA, on the Animal Welfare Management Plan that's been brought in, and a bit of information about sharing geolocations for the new EU deforestation requirements. We'll then be hearing from John Asmus, who's the Digital Product Manager here at ISC, who'll be providing some pretty exciting updates about what we've been working on in the eNVD space over the past 6 to 12 months. He'll be giving a bit of a demonstration on some improved pick search functionality and a few other little bits and pieces, which should be pretty good. And then it'll be passing back to me. I'll quickly run through a bit of a reminder on the mandatory sheep and goat eID rollout before handing it over to Natasha Tere, who's the ISC Operations Group Manager, who'll be providing a bit of an update on the NLIS Database Uplift Project, which we've been working on now for coming up on 2 years. So an exciting update there from Natasha. And then I'll be passing it over to Renee McLean, who is the Principal Livestock Biosecurity Officer with the Northern Territory Department of Agriculture and Fisheries, who'll be providing a bit of a territory update there. So without further ado, a little bit of a refresher on who Integrity Systems Company are and what we do, what we're responsible for. So ISC manage the two key assurance programs for the Australian Red Meat Integrity System. So that's the NLIS, or National Livestock Identification System, and the LPA program, which is the Livestock Production Assurance program. The NLIS key traceability system for tracking livestock throughout the supply chain, property to property, and the LPA program, which is responsible for maintaining biosecurity, animal welfare, and food safety. And those two programs work together to ensure that we're increasing our market access and maintaining our existing market access, both domestically and internationally, and that our products continue to meet customer expectations and provide safe red meat. But that's about it as far as an overview for Integrity Systems Company goes. I'll now pass it over to Elizabeth Bradley, who can give the updates on the Livestock Production Assurance Program.
Thank you, Xander. Hello, everyone. So I'm here to talk about the Livestock Production Assurance Program, or LPA, and some key updates we've made in the last few months about the program. I'll talk around the EU requirements around deforestation and what that means for producers in terms of sharing geolocations. I'll talk around the Animal Welfare Management Plan, which is a brand new requirement to the program. And just a note, it's probably not super relevant for the Northern Territory, but the LPA program also launched a module to enable harvested rangeland goats or wild caught goats to move through the supply chain, with sheep and goat EID coming in at the start of the year. So we won't dive into that one, it's not really relevant, but it is a major change for the program that we have implemented. I'll talk first about the EUDR and the geolocation kind of requirements. So the EUDR is short for the European Union's Deforestation Regulation. It's a new piece of legislation that comes into force on the 31st of December this year. It only applies to importers and people in the EU, but it means that product that gets imported into the EU needs to meet these new requirements around deforestation. And it applies to every country in the world, and in particular for us, it actually captures beef products and leather and hides. So it has a little bit of an impact in terms of what we as Australia need to provide in terms of data, every consignment of export that's going into the EU. So it is a high value market for us. It's about $150 million for the beef side and $50 million for the leather. So it does have some premiums attached to it in order to maintain this market access. It is separate to the UCAS or the EU program that's administered by DAF. That program looks at the hormone freedom and the lifetime traceability of the cattle that turn into beef and beef products that go to the EU, versus the EUDR or the deforestation regulation applies to leather and hides as well. And it also is not party to the trade agreement we have with the EU, so it sits outside of what the government can actually influence. The effect of it is that with import documentation that goes with consignments of beef or with hides, we need to be able to provide the geolocation of every animal that has moved in its lifetime with that import documentation, so that the importer can do due diligence on that and make sure that it hasn't come from deforested land. So it's a bit of a tricky one, but effectively what that means for producers is that we have built a tool in LPA to allow every cattle producer to opt in to share their geolocation. So just a single point that represents a point on their property, and it also permission that sharing of that geolocation through the NLIS database, so that processor or exporter can then share that with the import documentation. So it's really quite simple from a producer's perspective. It takes about a minute to complete. You log into your LPA account and navigate to the programs page. You can then pin your location that represents your property using a little tool that's up on screen here. And then once you hit save, it kind of stores that and sends it across to NLIS. That geolocation is sort of attached to the life history of the animals as they move through the supply chain. And only those geolocations get shared through that report to maintain as minimum information that's getting shared outside of that requirement. So this was built to make sure that we can provide that information and it's shareable, but also protecting privacy of producers as much as possible as well. It will have lots of impacts, especially with cattle going on feed or on feed at the moment in feedlots. That will end up going to the EU at the end of the year. So even if you're not an EU producer, it is important to jump in and share if you can, because that will really help the leather and hides industry continue to have access to that market as well. But that's enough on EUDR. If you have any other questions, please feel free to ask them. The other big thing that we've brought into LPA recently is the Animal Welfare Management Plan. So this is a brand new requirement that we brought in from the 23rd of June, so 2 months ago just about. This is building on the existing animal welfare requirements in the program. And the aim was to strengthen the animal welfare assurance the program provides. So previously you just had to have access to the standards and do some training. And now there's a requirement to document how you meet the animal welfare standards through a management plan. We worked really hard with industry, who actually requested this improvement to the program, to make sure that when we brought the requirement in, there was also a tool there to help you complete the management plan that was simple and easy and as fast as possible as well. The tool is available now to complete at any time through your LPA account in the record keeping section. It prompts you through the process. It's really dynamic, and we worked really hard to test it and build it with industry as well. So it's all around ensuring we can provide continued assurance around welfare, especially as we export so much of our meat overseas. We're constantly having to, promote how well we do, and this is that next step in around welfare as well. The animal welfare standards and guidelines was the basis of this animal welfare management plan. These standards and guidelines have been in place since 2016, so they've been around for a while. They cover off on general responsibilities, feed, water requirements, risk management on farm in relation to maintaining welfare, how you maintain facilities and equipment, handling and husbandry practices, breeding, humane euthanasia. There's standards for every livestock species. So there's one for cattle, one for sheep, one for goats. The tool itself has been built off these, so it shows you the standard. Then it asks you a question how you meet that standard. We provide a lot of guidance in the tool itself as well, so you can actually choose from multiple choice answers, which are based off the guidelines. And in some cases, you get to type in free text as well, but there's guidance provided in little pop-up boxes for you as well in case you need help. It's dynamic, and what I mean by that is if you only have cattle, you only get questions about cattle. It also asks you what husbandry practices you do. So if you don't do dehorning, you won't have to answer questions about dehorning. So it's, like I said, dynamic and as streamlined as possible, but it is based off these standards because they're nationally in place. We do have a short video that just kind of explains it and shows a few demos of it. So I'll just hit play.
There's a new animal welfare tool for the Livestock Production Assurance Program. The Animal Welfare Management Plan makes LPA accreditation and reaccreditation clearer about ensuring good animal health and welfare outcomes. There will be some extra questions in the self-assessment when you renew accreditation every 2 years, but the underlying requirements haven't changed, and there's no extra cost. With Livestock Production Assurance, Australia's cattle, sheep and goat producers already commit to Australia's animal welfare standards. The new tool gives consumers and our markets a stronger basis for preferring our red meat. So let's see how it works. Log in to your LPA account. Click on Record Keeping at the bottom of the screen. Or just go to Account and select Record Keeping. Choose the Animal Welfare Management Plan option. Confirm your on-farm activities, and from here the questions are tailored specifically for the livestock you work with. If you produce sheep, you won't get questions about cattle or goats. You'll be asked to read the relevant animal welfare standards for each section and answer questions with either multiple choice or free text answers. Guidance and links are at each question to help. Once you've completed it, an Animal Welfare Management Plan document will be created. You can then download it as a PDF, but it'll also be stored in your LPA account for easy access and updating. It'll be available anytime via Record Keeping. The Animal Welfare Plan tool is available for completion anytime in your LPA account. You'll need to do this as part of your reaccreditation, and it'll form part of LPA audits. The Livestock Production Assurance Program is all about improving transparency and traceability for Australian red meat and backs the standards we uphold in Australia, including animal welfare. The Animal Welfare Management Plan gives our markets more confidence that our producers are delivering animal welfare to the best standards in the world. For more information, head to the Animal Welfare page on the Integrity Systems website. integritysystems.com.au/on-farm assurance/animal welfare.
Always good to have a different voice doing I'm changing my slides now. Just a quick note before I talk about transition and how to complete it. So we had a bit of misinformation going through the media around us trying to restrict working dogs through this plan. That's not correct. If you do have sheep, which you probably don't, the use of dogs is completely okay. And there's a question in there that kind of looks at appropriate dog use, but it's just putting it out there that that is completely fine. And we love dogs here at ISC for sure. In terms of the transition period or bringing on or when to complete your animal welfare management plan, it has been available to complete since the 23rd of June. We have allowed a transition period and we will start looking at if those plans have been completed at audits from the 1st of September. So there's been a bit of a time frame to let people jump on and do that. The audits that happen after the 1st of September, the auditor will simply be checking if you've completed the plan, not looking at the plan in detail and looking at implementation. So if you don't get to it in time for the audit, you'll get time after that to jump in and complete it as well. So there's always time to complete it at the end of the audit as well. The main thing is that if you jump in and do it now, it means you won't have to do it when you complete reaccreditation next time. But if you don't, it will be as part of your reaccreditation. You'll have to answer those questions when you next fall due. And that is me on all of the improvements around LPA. So I'll hand over to John, who's going to run you through eNVD Web. Thanks, John.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Good afternoon, everyone. As Xander said at the start, my name's John Asmus. I'm the Digital Product Manager for ISC. What does that mean? We look after the user experience and the implementation of changes across the 3 products that ISC is responsible for. And one of those is eNVD. So as part of your LPA accreditation, you have access to create digital movement documents to represent any movements of livestock off your farms. So the purpose of my little segment here is just to run through some of the improvements that we have done over the last 6 months and what we're planning to do in the eNVD space. Next slide. Thanks. So yeah, as I mentioned, we are investing a lot of money into eNVD. We see it as the future to digitize these movements and take and move away from the paper-based element of movements. There were two areas that we're focusing on over the last 6 months and into the next 6 months. And one is to build an integration with NLIS through eNVD. We recognise that there's a synergy between the information that you enter in the movement document and your compliance regulations within NLIS to represent that movement. So we thought it was a good opportunity to bring those 2 products closer together and make it a little bit simpler for the users and reducing the amount of logins that you need to do to represent essentially the same thing. So I'll go through a quick demonstration of that feature soon. The other area that we're looking at is we realise that there's quite a big pain point in terms of trying to find destination picks within eNVD. So we've been focusing on how do we make that easier for users to find the destination if they don't know the pick number, realizing that everyone knows their own pick number, but not necessarily where they want to send the movements to. So looking at what is the information that we get from the states around all the picks registered and how to easily represent that in a search function that gets you where you need to go as quick as you can. Next slide, thanks. So just focusing on the integration between eNVD and NLIS. At this point, this is our first kind of foray into this integration. So the idea behind this is to do a nice, simple kind of representation of the movement, see how the users are using it, learn from that, and then start building it out as a little bit more feature-rich in terms of the functionality. So basically, when we're doing eNVDs, there's 2 sides to the movement. We see the main benefit to be on the receiver side of the eNVD, as they're responsible for doing the transfer within NLIS according to current legislation. if the information or the tag or the device information is added to the consignment, we can then populate that information straight through to NLIS without having to log on and do that property transfer directly, so that you don't, as I mentioned before, have to take that information out of eNVD, then put it into NLIS as a separate process. So we're looking at that as being the primary value to the receiver at this point. The other added benefits as well is if that tag information is added to the eNVD, we can do a validation of those tags at that particular point. And front run any potential issues. So in terms of statuses on devices, if that device isn't actually on the from pick, and also if you're adding incorrect species into the consignment. So I can go through those validations as well. From a sender's perspective, you can add those tags to give your receiver early visibility of what devices are coming in the consignment. So we integrate with lots of the readers' outputs, so you can upload those directly. And again, you can see those validations that I mentioned before at that point in time. So as soon as you submit that consignment, that information is shared across both parties in the eNVD. Next slide. I think we've got a little video just to highlight what it is, and then I'll do a demonstration after this.
Want NLIS livestock transfers to be simpler? Well, there's now an option to complete NLIS movements directly through the eNVD web system. For eNVD-ready receivers, it's a game changer. No more having to go into the NLIS to do livestock transfers. The option to do it in the eNVD web system is both simpler and faster. For senders, help your eNVD-ready receiver get the transfer right and cut your pick reconciliation admin. Just preload an accurate device list to your eNVD for the receiver to transfer. So what's in the NLIS database matches what's in your paddock. Receivers can preview the device numbers heading their way, pick up any statuses and plan ahead for a smoother transfer. The National Livestock Identification System and the Electronic National Vendor Declaration are now more connected than ever before. So traceability and compliance are handled in a streamlined process, all in one place.
Okay, so what does that kind of mean in real life? So basically, if you're familiar with eNVD, I'll just share my screen so you guys can see it. Currently, this is only available in the web version of eNVD, but as I mentioned before, we're looking at how it's being used here, and then we'll roll it out across the app platform, and other features will evolve from there. So basically, what does that mean? If you're familiar with eNVD, we can create consignments. So at this point, I'm a sender of the consignment. I can create a new consignment, and what the easiest way to do is set up these existing templates. So you have answered all the questions. You kind of know what destination it's going to. So it's really good to use a template if you're sending animals to the same destination. And to do that, we just select the template. We can just set when they're moving. So I'll just move them today. We can then go and update the individual details of the livestock that's been moved. So for this example, I'll just put in we're moving 19 head. All of them have got tags. There's no rumen devices. So we can add that to the eNVD. And then to finish it off with the template, I just need to accept the terms and conditions. And at that point, we can submit the consignment. So it's really easy to create consignments that are pre-loaded up in a template. It's quite quick and very accurate for the receiver. To add the tags on, we can see that there's this new feature here to add the devices. So all we need to do is just click on that button and you have the option to either upload the file, and as I mentioned, we can accept the reader outputs here, and we just look at the devices or the RFIDs that have been loaded up there and ignore all the other fields. Or if you hold that information in another system or in a book, you can type it in or cut and paste it in here manually. For this example, we'll just load it up using a file. And we can just pick a file from your computer. You can see it's loaded there, and then we push that through. So as I mentioned before, what it does at this point is it goes and checks in NLIS what the status of those devices that you loaded. So there's a bit of information being played back here, and this is just an example of how we can pick up inconsistencies on the devices that you're adding in the movement before it gets put through to the receiver. So here we're just representing a bad read or an incorrect device. So if there's something that's been added into there that's not reading correctly, or it's not a valid NLIS ID, we can call it out here. To remove that, if it's a mistake, you can just delete it from the consignment. This warning here is just telling you that the device that you've loaded is actually not on your pick to send off. So that might represent maybe that animal's moved on and we've forgotten to do the transfer. So it's just calling that out so you can resolve that before that movement takes place, so that lifetime traceability and the life history of that animal is up to date and correct, and saving a little bit of confusion when it hits the receiver and not having to kind of fix that up at that point. So again, if it's just a mistake, we can delete that, remove it. It's as simple as that. And then here's an example of, like, if you have multi-species on your farm and you've just added in a device that's not of the right species, we can also call that out at this point. So again, we can remove that as an example. So then you can see that we've got a nice consignment here. There's no issues detected. And that's really all you need to do from a sender's perspective. So if I go back and then switch the eNVD from a receiver's perspective, you can see that here's the incoming consignment. I can see that the tags have been added through this little icon and it's ready for the movement. So if I want to go and have a look at those devices, and remembering that as soon as those devices are added to the consignment and it's submitted, the receiver gets full visibility of those at that point. I can go in, have a look at the devices and review what's been loaded. So you can actually do this before the animals are physically received. You can have an idea of what's been added and see that before it's actually hitting your farm. The main thing to call out here is that at this point, if you're just interacting with your LPA profile within eNVD, you cannot do the movement. You need to switch your profile to your linked NLIS account. Now, if you need help doing that, we do give you a guide to do that, or you can reach out to the Integrity Systems websites, and there's a lot of collateral on how to do that. But if you do not switch the profile at this point, you won't be able to do any edits, or conversely do the move onto your pick function. It'll be locked out for you. So it's a bit of a prompt to do that. In terms of what does that mean in reality, if you've linked it up correctly, you should see an NLIS profile available to you. So in this example, you can see that it's indicated by an NLIS ID. If we switch to that, and then go into the consignment, we should see that we now have the ability to do amendments or do the movement. So to do the movement, we can have a look at the devices. If there's no issues there and we're all good with that, all we need to do the movement is just hit move on to my pick, and then that's it. It processes the request. It tells you that it's been submitted to the NLIS. If you want further details about that movement, so if you need an upload ID or you want to just double check that movement has been accepted by NLIS, we tell you here that the movement's complete, and then you can drill down into the details. You can see the eNVD number that's been added to it, the upload ID if you want to go into NLIS. And if you want to just log in straight there and check it to confirm it, you also have a link to do that as well. So that's just a really short, kind of sharp demonstration of that new function. Obviously, there's lots of different moving parts to it, but it's really there to increase the usability and reduce the load on you guys in doing your compliance movements within NLIS. The other thing that we've been doing, as I mentioned, is just improving the pick search. So as I mentioned, there's a few pain points in terms of people being able to find the right destination. What we have found through our user research and feedback is that through the app, there's the ability to filter the picks down to get you to the right spot. So we're going to extend that across the app and the web to use that concept and introduce some other features that will allow a more efficient way of finding the destination pick if you don't know it already. So just to elaborate on that, to show kind of where we're going and what the feature is going to look like, if I have a look at this example here, again, we're looking at the eNVD that we just went through before. The new things that we're going to add into is a more kind of clear indication of destinations that you've used. So through our research, we understand that people use common destinations. So what we're going to do is present those destinations that have been used before to you, so that you can just select it. So you don't have to search for anything. We'll have a history of the last 10 destinations. So if you're going to the same abattoir or the feedlot or another producer that you use from time to time, you'll have these in your recent locations, and you'll just be able to select them through one pick, and then it'll populate that destination. The other different feature that we're giving with the pick search is also, I have some details. So you haven't used that destination before, you don't know the pick number, but you kind of know where the destination is. So this is where we're utilizing these filter options to be able to select the state, indicate the town or the suburb that that the destination picks in, and then also the type of pick that you're interacting with. So for an example, we can just use New South Wales. We're looking for a sale yard in Wagga. We can select that, and then it'll narrow down the search and give you a small number of options to select from. And by indicating it through the type with an icon and the business name, the user should be able to find the destination that it's after. So yeah, I think that's it for me. Thanks for your attention. I'll see you a bit later.
Awesome. Thanks for that, John. Some really exciting work being done in the eNVD space there. Shifting gears quickly to the mandatory rollout of sheep and goat eID. Just thought I'd give a quick update on where we're up to here. But the main thing we want to cover off really is that from Jan 1 this year, in the Northern Territory, all livestock must have an eID prior to departing a property. So that's sheep, goat, and cattle. That was an industry initiative nationwide. For the Northern Territory, it's from Jan 1 this year, and then from Jan 1, 2027, the rest of the states and territories catch up for all livestock. But just thought I'd drop that reminder in there. For ordering your devices, you'll either be reaching out to your state territory government, or more likely directly to the manufacturer of the devices. You'll need your pick handy when you get those, and most importantly, you want to be picking devices that are species specific. So that is sheep devices and tags for sheep, and goat devices for goat. They are species specific. And you can tell often there's a little code in the NLIS ID. So for sheep breeder tags, so that's for sheep born on your property, the code is S. and the post breeder tags is T. And then for goats, the breeder code is K and the post breeder is L. And for sheep and goats, you can, for the color of the tags and devices, the breeder devices will be yellow all the year of birth, and then any post breeder devices for sheep and goats will be pink. So just a reminder there to make sure that you're getting the species specific tags. You don't want to be putting goat tags in sheep and vice versa. And then quickly touching on NLIS transfers, a reminder that they are the receiver's responsibility to be recording those movements in the NLIS database. So if you're shifting livestock to sale yards, feedlots, processors, often it will be those sale yards, feedlots and processors that will complete those transfers for you. Though if you're moving livestock through online platforms like Auctions Plus or property to property, it will be the receiver's responsibility to complete that NLIS transfer, legal responsibility. But it's always good to jump in the database yourself, and you're more than welcome to complete that transfer of your own accord. And at the very least, making sure that you're keeping a record of those NLIS upload IDs, just to keep on hand if you ever are audited or anything of the like. Moving on, we do have, if you do need any support keeping up to date with the mandatory rollout of sheep and goat eID, we've got loads of resources on the Integrity Systems website. We've got loads of resources on the Sheep and Goat Traceability Task Force webpage there, and a reminder that we'll be sending all these resources out in a post-webinar pack. All the videos and slides and resources that you see here, you'll get in an email in the coming week. And of course, the Northern Territory Department of Ag will have some resources on their website as well that will be able to help you out. But before I ramble on too long there, I'll pass it over to Natasha, who will give the NLIS Database Uplift Project update.
Thanks, Sander. So we're just wanting to focus on the Database Uplift Project. Currently, our analysis is telling us that only 20% of producers are aware of the up-and-coming database, that it will be changing. So we're just going to give you a focus on that for the next few minutes. If we think about the year 2000, we were all running around a bit scared about what would happen with Y2K. We were probably using a little Nokia 3310 and playing the game Snake on our phones. This was the year that the NLIS database started. It was released in the year 2000. So what does that mean for us? It's time for a refresh. You know, why is it needed, the new uplifted database? Because it protects market access and food safety and is our key defence against exotic diseases in Australia. It's getting a bit past it at 25 years old. It feels like just yesterday that it was released, but it is definitely due for an upgrade. We're building for the future by future-proofing livestock traceability for decades to come. We're improving the user experience. We all like the 50 drop-down menu that's in there at the moment, and it's quite hard at times to locate what you're looking for. It will still maintain that core purpose and functionality, but it will be more modernised and have a lot more secure infrastructure. We all know that cybersecurity is a major threat across all platforms nowadays. So we're tracking towards a 30th of June 2026 completion date, and this is being supported by a $22.5 million funding grant from the Australian government. So what will it do? What will this help with? It'll increase traceability due to improved usability. We're looking at developing an easier to use system. We know that a lot of producers are finding the compliance and regulations annoying when they just want to be out on farm growing their animals. Well, we've simplified the processes to get the job done more easily and quicker. It has improved ability to upload large files and access the data quickly and efficiently. The data quality is improved and maintained a lot more effectively, and it will continue to keep your data safe, secure, and up to date, and provide better reporting and analytics and improve notifications. So a lot of people aren't aware, but this has been a 3-year journey. We started back in July 2023, and we'll be looking at completion by July 2026. So where are we at in the project at the moment? We're in the middle of the build phase and the stage transition. So we're working together as an organisation with our vendor to provide a clear back-end and front-end solution. So I'm going to hand over to our guru, John, now to give you a demo of what it's going to look like so you can see what direction we're heading with the new database.
Thanks, Natasha. As Natasha mentioned, what we've been doing over the last kind of year or so is having a look at, you know, what opportunities we can do to make sure that the current system can be uplifted and give us a great, a more usable experience. So if you can have a look at what we currently, and you guys are probably familiar with this look at the system. It's quite dated, and it's quite hard to kind of work out, you know, what you need to do. You need to dig through a lot of detail to find out, or do the things that are your compliance obligations are. So to kind of transpose that existing experience onto the way that we're going with the new system. This is the landing page that we're designing at the moment and building, and this has been through lots of consultative user feedback sessions and talking to real producers and other people within the supply chain that use NLIS to land on some designs that we can, you know, put forward and make it easy for people to use, and reduce the time that you have to spend in the system. We understand that this is probably the last thing that people want to do, but it's also important for the traceability and the biosecurity of Australia. So we want to focus on those facts and present them in an easy way for people to interact with the system. First of all, is kind of, I suppose, on this landing page is presenting the current details around the PIC that you're interacting with, outlining any statuses, any programs that you're part of, the species that you have on your farm, and then as we scroll down, this is really the I suppose the crux of the system in terms of letting the user dictate what they want to do with the system. Two options here. The first one is the ability to search. So you may have a specific reference to an ID or a transaction that you've done in the past, or a particular action. We'll give you that general search function to be able to drill down into that and find the detail really quickly. For an example of that, might have a transaction that I know has been done in the past, or someone's given me a reference for. You can select the transaction, put in the transaction ID, search it, and then it comes back with all the results. So you can see here that for this transaction, I can see when it was done, the type of transaction, and who did it. But also, if I need to look at more detail, I can drill down into that. And what this then gives me is some more detail about that particular transaction. It was a movement from this PIC to this PIC, the number of cattle, the devices that are attached, any NVD references or movement document details, and then also the devices that were part of this particular movement. So within that, you've drilled down in a couple of steps and got the information that you're after. Going back to the landing page, the other big thing that we want to make prevalent to the users is the ability to configure quick actions. So these might be the 4 things that you commonly do with NLIS, in terms of, you know, recording movements, having a look at your holdings on your PIC, maybe a high volume report that you constantly use, or, you know, your PIC reconciliation, which everyone has to do from time to time. Just calling out that we use this as an opportunity to kind of rationalize and make terms more consistent and more meaningful within the system. So what does that mean? At the moment, every kind of movement is termed as a transfer. We're kind of consolidating all those transactions that actually represent moving stock from one location to another within one livestock movement. We're removing the reference to tags. As we know, there's multiple different types of devices that are used to identify animals within the system. So just using tags is pretty limited and not always correct. So we're moving to that terminology of a device. And the third example is a livestock inquiry. So this is the old beast inquiry, but as NLIS is only just not cattle, it's other species. We're generalizing that in terms of livestock. So this is just an opportunity to kind of make that language consistent and a little bit more up to date. As we scroll down through the landing page, and I suppose the main purpose of this landing page is if you can answer the questions that you're after within this page, and that's great. So what we're doing here is presenting types of information that we think that you'd be interested in seeing without having to dig down further. We can summarize the latest movements on and off your property. We can also highlight any high important notifications. We're keeping that interaction with eNVD and making that visible so that you know any incoming or outgoing eNVDs that you've done for that particular day. And then graphically representing the devices on your pick. So if you know that you're doing movements off and this line is staying stagnant or going up, then that's a call to action to say, hey, maybe these transfers that the receiver is responsible for aren't happening, and you can go and follow them up and make sure that they're accurate. Because at the end of the day, the more accuracy you have makes your pick reconciliations less painful. Okay, I think that's it, Natasha. Thanks.
Thanks, John. I'll just wait till you hand it back. Thank you. Yeah, so as John mentioned, there's been a high level of engagement across the development of the database. And this has included 3 rounds of usability testing with producers from different sectors and on different species types. There is 4 layers of governance over the Uplift project, which includes industry reference groups, states and territories reference groups, technical reference committee, and then the overarching project is being governed by another committee. There's 135 plus hours of engagement with industry since March 2024, and that continues. And we've attended over 20 industry events and workshops and trade shows and field days and conferences. We'll just let people have a look at the system and give us feedback and see how it's going to look for the future. So what does it mean for you as a producer? The new look NLIS database is designed to be simpler and easier to use, but we recognise it's a big change. For some people, they've only just got used to the old one. So we're developing detailed training plans, and we'll be sharing those as soon as it's available so that people are aware how they can get support. But we plan to assist producers in industry with how-to guides, training webinars, hands-on demonstration and examples, and regular updates and opportunities to ask questions. And of course, we'll always have our ISC service support team available that are available by chatbot 24/7 or on the phones between 7 and 7 Australian Eastern Standard Times during weekdays and 9 to 5 on the weekends. So they'll be available. And we've always got heaps of material and heaps of educational resources available, as Xander has mentioned, on our website. So I'll now hand over, is it to Renee, to give you the estate update.
Thanks, Natasha, and thanks to the ISC team for organising this webinar series and providing such a comprehensive update for everyone. I won't keep you too long, just a quick update. We are still rolling out the sheep and goat EID rollout in the Northern Territory. So if anyone does have sheep or goats and they'd like to have have some devices. They can order them. We've about 3,500 have been ordered so far, so good numbers for the NT. So to do that, I'll send some information in the post-webinar pack, but you just have to have a property identification code, ensure your details are up to date, and yeah, just discuss with your regional livestock biosecurity officer. And just a friendly reminder that although there are NVDs in the NT, you still need a waybill for movements originating in the Northern Territory. And for animals coming in, there are those species-specific health certificate and waybills. So I've got an example of the goat one there, but cattle and buffalo, deer, camels, alpacas and llamas, goats, sheep and horses all require NT health certificate, and sheep also require chief inspector approval. So yeah, that's it from me, but yeah, if you have any queries, please reach out to myself or your regional livestock biosecurity officers, and I'll include some contact details in the post-webinar. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Renee. And that just about brings us to a close. Just a few closing comments before we wrap up. I'll give you our top 3 integrity takeaways. If you do take away anything from today's webinar, it'd be number 1, to jump into the LPA there and complete your animal welfare management plan when you can. And if it's relevant to your operation, jump in and share your geolocation as well, to maintain that EU access. Number 2, to jump online and give eNVD a try. You would have seen John presented some great improvements there over the last 6 months, and it's constantly getting more and more improvements being made to it. So jump in and give it a crack if you can. And number 3, as Natasha mentioned, the NLIS database. Keep an eye out for that over the next 12 months. It's really exciting to see, and overdue, a new uplifted database coming through for us all to use. So keep an eye out for that one. And that does just about bring us to the end of today's webinar. Do keep an eye out for the recording and the slide deck and resources that we'll be sharing out in the next week or so. That'll have a recap of all this information that we've presented. Thanks again to all our presenters tonight from ISC and Northern Territory Department of Ag. And thank you for taking the hour out of your day to catch up on all things Integrity Systems Company. There will be a post-webinar survey that should pop up on your screens once we wrap things up there. So we'd really appreciate it if you could jump in and complete that and give us any feedback, what you thought we might have done well, what you thought we might have done not so well, so we can improve for next time. But that's about it. Thanks very much.